Trash talking from pros in Rocket League is usually pretty rare, but when you do find that rare circumstance where it does happen, it's usually pretty funny. And I can only remember one time when I was a pro that I actually trash talked, and honestly, I don't even think it's considered trash talk. I just thought it was funny, really. After a series in a semifinal versus NRG, I said, GG's, NRG. Turbo said, one more dub and the title's yours. This guy said SSG in 6 because we were about to play SSG in the finals. So I proceeded to say, suck my nuts. Now, most people wouldn't even consider that trash talk, and I don't even know if I would consider it trash talk either. I just found it kind of funny and a good way to start the video. But this weekend, after the European RLCS on Friday, there was actually a lot of real trash talk that was happening on Twitter, and I found it pretty entertaining and pretty funny. It all starts from a tweet from Oxygen Esports when Rise left Oxygen, and they ended up making a tweet about their new players. They said, welcome Ixo and Snasky to Oxygen. But in the reply, they ended up saying, Rise is no longer part of Oxygen. We are grateful for their impact and wish them the best. A pretty straightforward, but an extremely simple tweet. And it does seem a little odd initially, like just looking at it, right? You know, you're thanking a player, but you know, you don't have a time to make a graphic. And usually the graphics are already kind of like pre-made. You just select a few things and they're there. You know, they're pretty simple to make regardless. So when I'm looking at it, I see it as a little bit disrespectful, even though Rise did only stay on this org for about 3 months. But I would say he deserves a tweet. He represented them at a major. That's pretty good. That's pretty solid. So after this tweet comes out, Rise is no longer on Oxygen. He moves to BDS, and about 2 weeks later, they end up playing in RLCS, Oxygen versus BDS, where BDS ends up defeating Oxygen, and Rise has something to say, where initially, his tweet is very happy, actually. He said, top 8, let's go. Too close, to be honest, but we ice up regardless. My teammates are so effing good. And then he replies to his own tweet and says, Oxygen Esports are no longer a part of Spring Split Regional 1. We are grateful for their impact, and we wish them the best. Honestly, a hilarious tweet to me. I think, like, I'm all for slam dunking on orgs, corporations, you know, when it's not a human being on the other end, and it's like you're making fun of the company, I'm all for it. Give him a good old slam dunk, mess with him a little bit, give him a noogie, you know what I'm saying? It's whatever, it's no big deal. So I found it extremely funny. But Rise's ex-teammate Yoris didn't find it as funny as I did, and he took it a little bit personal. And he goes on to say, it's funny, but also sad to see Rise bashing us. We didn't scrim for 7 weeks because of his wrist. Rise ended up breaking his wrist or spraining it or something like that, and so they couldn't scrim, which is unfortunate, and talking to other teams before the major is even finished is not the greatest mental either, in my opinion. I respect the choice, but don't see the point of just shaming. Rise goes on to say, what teams did I talk to before the major? If you want to know, the first time I spoke to any teams was Liquid on the Sunday night when they initiated the conversation with me. So he's saying Sunday night of the major. That is the final day of the major, so it wasn't before the major. But he's saying, yeah, when they initiated the conversation with me, on top of that, my tweet was just a reply to what I thought was a bit disrespectful tweet from Oxygen. So, you know, like I said, I mentioned earlier, Oxygen just tweeting a little bit of, some text for Rise's departure did seem a little odd. It's a little off-putting. Usually, it's just common to have, like, a little graphic or even, Rise wasn't on the team for long, but maybe you make, like, a 30-second tage of a couple goals and say thank you. You know, it's not that big a deal. So Yoris didn't like it. Rise ends up responding, and if you're paying attention, you notice there is kind of a little bit of a leak there talking about Team Liquid. And so Vatira decides to chime in hilariously and just says at Acronic, who's on Team Liquid, and says, you should be careful, bro. And Acronic just replies and says, I don't need to. Rise is not a threat. So some nice little trash talk there. It's pretty funny. Chicago chimes in, not even from the same region, but he just decides to chime in and says, me personally, I wouldn't take that level of disrespect. And I mean, hey, me personally, I wouldn't either. And so Rise goes on to say, don't get me started on when you were gonna drop JNAPs for Aqua, which just seems, the way it's worded just seems like a lie. And then Chicago also says, at least make it believable, lad. So then now it's not even just about trash talking, it's about people are just trying to throw fuel into the fire, and some people are, you know, making real tweets, some people are shit posting, and it's just an incredibly crazy situation. And so along with Rise's tweet, after he tweets about this, Oxygen is no longer part of the Spring Split, a toe from Team Liquid chimes in and says, maybe time for them to don't say GG's after 20 minutes in scrims. Usually teams just scrim in a 1 hour block. You say, hey, Liquid, Oxygen, we're going to scrim each other. We're going to scrim at 6 p.m., which means they're going to go from 6 p.m. to 7. They're just going to scrim for the hour. But clearly Ato is saying that they're canceling scrims early, and they'll play for 20 minutes, and then the rest of the 40 minutes, Team Liquid is kind of screwed because the team just leaves. And then Vatira goes and replies to Ato and says, maybe you cannot talk after trolling a lot of scrims already. So now Vatira is saying that Team Liquid trolls scrims, as well as Ato saying that Oxygen trolls scrims. And this guy just starts instigating. He said, how will you respond? And Ato says, I mean, I have to agree, we trolled some games for sure, but it's like super rare, and it should not happen IMO. So Ato's saying, it happens occasionally, but it shouldn't. Vatura says, some games, what do you mean? Some hours of scrims since the beginning of the season, yeah? And he said, nah, bro, we are always tryharding scrims, but sometimes you guys just peaked and destroy us, or someone in the team feels bad, and then we have a bad day of scrims. So Vatura says, you must feel bad a lot of the time in a week that, which is, a little translation error, but it just says, you must feel bad you must feel bad every week, essentially. You must feel bad a lot, which it's hilarious. It's hilarious to me. So all while players are tweeting about the scrim drama and stuff, there is just a completely other separate thing that's happening, and Atomic ends up tweeting out, I don't know what to do anymore after G1 was eliminated. I believe they were eliminated in 12th place, and Acronic just chimes in out of nowhere, which usually you just never see something like this, but he ended up saying, maybe instead of I don't know what to do anymore, you shouldn't do anything like kicking someone after the first major you played at. So for just a little bit of context, G1, they ended up qualifying for a major. Atomic, it was his first major. After they made the major, they ended up kicking Mark by 8 for Oli. And there's a little bit of a back and forth here. It's pretty minor, but the tweets ended up being deleted. Acronic ends up saying something here along the lines of like, yes, but you didn't see what happened behind the scenes, which usually is a common denominator in any roster move and stuff like that. Oh yeah, but whatever it might be, whatever is implied there. And then Acronic just says, I agree, but I do know that you just got top 12 and probably would have done better without that move. And so this guy just kind of randomly instigates. So G1 has been eliminated now. This guy randomly instigates and says, come on, do something, while tweeting at Mark, because if you don't know, Mark ended up making an iconic tweet. Mark has also been booted off another team called BDS while they were doing well as well while they were winning. They qualified for majors and stuff, and Mark ends up getting kicked, and BDS goes on to the major with their new player, and they just lose. They get last place after Mark gets kicked, and so he tweets this. Classic Mike Wazowski. And, it's just a little ticked off Mike Wazowski here. But it's a pretty funny tweet. It's an iconic tweet in Rocket League esports history. It really is. And so this guy's bugging Mark by 8 to tweet something. Just do a funny meme. Do a little something funny. Because, Mark ends up tweeting Mike Wazowski. He's done it like twice or 3 times now. But he ends up replying to it. And he says, what do you want me to upload? I put the meme for BDS last year because it did an unexpected result. This was not an unexpected result. Saying basically that, once G1 kicked me, I knew they were going to be a lot worse. Whereas when BDS kicked me, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same thing. It just seems kind of random, I guess. Everybody's tweeting now back and forth. Some of it is real trash talk. Some of it's genuine. Some people are just shit posting. Some people are just trying to instigate. A bunch of people are doing just a bunch of random things because it was entertaining at the time, and a bunch of people just wanted maybe impressions or whatever, but people just started tweeting. And so I decided to chime in, and I wanted to ask our boy Zen. Zen's new to the scene, so I wanted to hear what he thought about everything. So I said, can we get your thoughts on all this madness on the timeline right now? And he decides to reply with him sipping on some orange juice. He's loving it. He's just absolutely loving it. He's loving the drama. He's just here for it. But that's just a funny tweet. I just wanted to instigate a little bit more. But, at the end of all this, Rise ends up tweeting, I have started beef between literally every European team. And I didn't even show you all of Rise's tweets, but, there's so many more where people are just going back and forth. They're instigating. Rise's tweet initially was like a meme, and then he started shitposting. Then he started instigating. And so Rise did a little bit of everything, but he said, I've started beef with literally every European team. Mission accomplished. See you tomorrow. Joyo says, destroyed 2 regions and 2 splits because he destroyed NA last region, or sorry, my mind's all over the place. He destroyed NA last split. Here's the whole point of the video. This is where the question comes in. Cash ends up tweeting after all of this. He goes on to say, it just shows the Rocket League scene is still too childish. So, people are, like I said, memeing, shitposting, all this stuff. And Vatura says, what do you mean? I was sleeping on Twitter and now we have something interesting. I find the tweeting entertaining as long as, people aren't getting personal with each other. I feel like, it's all part of the game, some light trash talk. I mean, this is seriously, like when you're looking at this stuff, it's not even serious at all. It's Rise memeing on an org. Yours took it a little personal. People are talking about scrim drama. Some people are instigating. Mark says their team is bad after they kicked him. It all seems pretty mild to me, right? It doesn't seem like anything too extreme. Nobody's getting personal. So when these teams actually compete against each other after trash talking, because they were trash talking before the matches, so it was extremely entertaining to watch them basically talk on Twitter and then having their matches come up shortly after that, because now there was something on the table. Now there was something to watch for. So the question is, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's entertaining when people talk like this on Twitter, when they did a little lighthearted trash talking, or do you think it's completely immature and it has no place in the Rocket League esports world or esports in general? With all the drama aside, I want to start a little bit of a dialogue. I ended up tweeting out as well, and this one's not drama or whatever, bait or whatever. After watching EU RLCS this weekend, NA does not even look close to this level. Top team, bubble team, average team, it doesn't matter. There is a visible gap. And when I tweeted this, a lot of people thought that I was just baiting. You can see this guy, bro, begging for impressions. That's bait. What bet did you lose to Johnny? It's actually not even close. LOL, EU talent greater than NA talent, and it's looking seasons apart. Now, I don't actually necessarily agree with that. I don't think it's looking seasons apart. But I do want to show you some of the highlights I saw in EU RLCS this weekend.
Too far away from the ball, 1-0. 5 without an answer. Zen looking to be the answer! The chosen one responds. Zen up into the air early with a stealing. Double tap, and then a flip reset.
Wins. Seiko denied again, this time by Exotic, and now the counterattack. Batira 1, Batira 2, Batira dunk, Batira!
Are you kidding? Batira, the four-touch, the unbelievable poise.
Maybe Atto can change that fact. Now it will fall to Oski. He'll beat Alpha. He'll go for the first touch, gets the second. Does he have the redirect? He does!
No
and
way.
Oski gets it in the top of the net with 2 seconds left!
What a brilliant follow-through from Oski. And the redirect. Oh, to get under the ball.
And so now looking at a couple of those highlights, let's see what NA did during their weekend.
Keep their offense going by putting Optic in awkward situations. And you can see that on display. AJG hitting the arc like you said. It comes down perfectly for Razebull, and Complexity back in the lead.
Oh, now a chance, that one. Wait, just
What?
another flip reset. And now a backline demo. It's a counter in favor of Gen G. Chronic,
he faked him.
shot. Fakes the flip reset and gets that one in.
Oh my, this one's back and forth. We are doing laps up and down the map, and Chronic doesn't use the flip reset. He's got all 3 of...
While I don't think EU Rocket League is seasons apart, I do think that there was a visible gap, at least in the first weekend of each regional in, each region. NA did not look up to par to what I was watching with EU, and a lot of the EU gameplay just looked absolutely ridiculous. It looked like everything was a threat, and if those teams were to play on that day at a major event, EU would have absolutely rolled NA just all over the place. But there's still plenty of time before the next major. Now, do I think EU is going to absolutely roll at the next major? No. I mean, the next major is probably in, what, a month and a half or something like that? That's plenty of time to get up to that standard and to play like that. It seems a little bit ridiculous, especially when I show you some meme clips, some hand-picked meme clips. But at the same time, these players are professional players, and you're going to see a lot of top teams in the world. Could take just 150-50 to win a game. You never really know what's going to happen, but, just looking at the regionals themselves, it looked like EU was just an absolute masterclass, and NA was just an absolute sleeper fest by comparison, which is probably the first time I've ever said something like that. But EU was absolutely insane, and I have to give props to them, because me personally, I'm usually not super interested in EU. I'm usually just interested in Moist. But as I was watching those games, I was thoroughly impressed, and I was genuinely mind blown and genuinely entertained, and I wanted to keep watching just because the level of gameplay was absolutely insane. Anyway, with all that being said, let me know what you guys think. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good one.